I fucking hate this time of year. E3 just really shits me off. It's a week-long spectacle that consumes all the weeks around it, both with overly hyped rumours and early leaks by unlisted fucks, ruining the entire enjoyment before anything even happens. Sure, it's fun discussing all the latest news and hopefully getting a surprise, but not when every device I own is pinging at me around the clock. And as the weeks following prove, it's a fucking shit show. It only brings out the most overly optimistic and opinionated assholes, rose-tinted glasses in hand, ready for heavy debating. Not to mention, all the individual people who think it's necessary to re-upload the same videos over and over again like grandma's favourite memes, all riddled with ads for their own personal gain. It's disgusting, quite frankly. The only thing just as overwhelming is every single cretin who feels the need to do a goddamn report on the entire lineup of news because they seem to think they have some special and unique opinion. Oh yeah, I'm a fucking hypocritical bastard. So let's run down the things I personally found interesting about the show. Before we can even get to E3, we received the fantastic announcement of a new Bubsy game. Yeah, and honestly, I'm not being sarcastic when I say that it is fantastic. It's a second chance for a failed mascot to have a game that's actually not shit in the year that's bringing life to games of the 90s. What could possibly go wrong? Well, clearly a lot of things, because this is looking really bad. Fucking Mighty Number 9 over here. The overall tone is also far too self-aware for a game that should genuinely be trying to do well. I hope they can turn it around, but it's not looking promising. Electronic Arts gets a bad rap in my opinion. I can see why they cop a lot of shit, but a lot of it is the result of bandwagoning in my opinion. Luckily for them, everything seemed fine in their conference, but the only thing that really caught my attention was a new game known as A Way Out, and already I was looking for a way out of the bombardment of news that was already taking over my life. This is a forced split-screen co-op story of two guys attempting a prison breakout. You'll have to work with a friend to get through, and I'm really excited about that. Rejuvenating past limitations into an artistic and presumable gameplay mechanic is what I want to see in this modern age. It's innovative and I like it. Not to mention there is nothing like playing through a game with a good friend, creating lifetime memories and experiencing what is hopefully an amazing narrative. Scheduled for early 2018, I'll certainly be picking this up. And as a guy who has nothing but bad things to say about the modern industry, they've got me hooked right from the start. Up next, it's time to talk about the Xbox One X. I missed this presentation due to things like sleep, but I can tell watching it back that it was a good showing. A lot of good looking games, none of them conquer, but after seeing how well Rareware is treated under Microsoft, you should be thankful. The biggest attention getter of Xbox this year was obviously the reveal of the Scorpio, now known as the Xbox One X, a dumb name for a dumb console. For all of those people out there that think 4K is important, and that a game isn't worth playing if it doesn't meet a stable frame rate of 60 frames per second, then I am excited for you. But this console is quite pointless in my opinion. While it's certainly a hardware monster that is breathing down Sony's neck in the console wars, I don't see it as a smart investment for many people out there, simply because you're paying twice the cost of an Xbox One S and getting nothing more than higher performance quality, even though you can play all of these games on your standard XXX bone just fine. But also in this presentation, something amazing happened. Backwards compatibility for both the 360 and original Xbox. Now that is exciting. I almost wish I owned a XXX Boner just for that, because Sony is losing the backwards compatibility race. Not the most important race in the grand scheme, but it's still a major victory for the green brand. Having said that, however, Sony is still smarter because any kind of retro or classic gaming happening on their system is still generating revenue, which is something I imagine Microsoft need right now. Sony wins the business portion of the race, while Xbox is just here to have a good time and please the fans, and I don't see anything wrong with that. Overall, it was a good presentation, just not too many games I see myself playing. Anthem looked gorgeous, but I'm sick to death of exosuits. Moving on. On to what? Sony? No, not quite. We got a little business to take care of first. Beyond Good and Evil is getting a sequel. Well, technically it's a prequel, but holy shit, that's fucking awesome! I don't know why, but I've never played this game before. I've played a demo that come with my PS2 back in the day, but I've never really taken the time to sit through this one. Despite that, based on the trailer alone, the tone seems quite different. Not that I'm in any fucking position to fucking call fucking anyone out for fucking swearing too fucking much, but seriously, what the fuck is with all the fucks in this trailer? It's so forced, I don't get it. I actually found it quite distracting, to be honest. I almost feel like that's the universe sending me a subtle message about my own videos. But fuck the universe. Regardless, I'm really glad to see this IP with a fresh, new experience. And I'd actually be keen to sit through the original finally after all of these years. So, if you'd like to see that, be sure to let me know, because we can check it out later this year. Now yes, technically Sony was up next, but in case you're new here, despite me spending the last 2 months covering a Nintendo system, I'll always be PlayStation at heart, so I'm saving them for last. Not that I've got much to say about Nintendo anyway, considering I hate them apparently. Ignoring the 28th release of Skyrim on the Switch, and Metroid getting some attention, the only thing I have to talk about is Mario. I've never been the biggest fan of Mario. Of all the games I've tried, which, in fairness, is less than half of them over all the different genres, I normally get bored of them almost immediately for a number of reasons. But this new trailer for Odyssey actually got me hyped. In fact, it's the only thing I've seen for this system so far that made me want to pick one up. So major props to Nintendo. Compared to its reveal trailer, the gameplay showcased here looks much more involved and creative, which is good to see, though I am getting a big Crash of the Titans vibe here, with Mario jacking his plumber into everything on screen. While it's still the same format we've had for 21 years now, I could see myself actually getting invested in this for once. God damn, did hell freeze over or something? It feels incorrect for me to be so positive about Mario, let alone most of what we've seen from E3. But that brings us to the grand finale of this recap, PlayStation and what they brought to the table. Now this was the only conference I was actually interested in watching live, if at all, because now being the proud owner of a PS4, less than a year after I completely shat all over the entire thing, I wanted to see some games. My whole thing with E3 every single year is that I want to see games that make me want to buy them. The entire thing is a marketing fiasco bottom line anyway, so fuck it. Give me your best shit. Make that money slide right out of my wallet, please. I was vastly let down last year, but ate my words in the long run, so let's see how they did. But poor Sony, some gobshite fuck who deserves nothing, spoiled their entire reveal for the Insane Trilogy early, meaning they had to throw up a trailer before their conference instead, despite Crash being a major release for the brand this year. What the actual fuck. Rough start to say the least. Up first, more Uncharted. Looks good, haven't played the 4th game yet, so I don't really care. Then we got Horizon Zero Dawn DLC. Fuck yes. It's still crazy for me to think that this time last year, I kind of buried this and called it another open world game, because holy shit, it's one of the best games of the last 10 years, easily. So a new reason to chuck that in and return to that experience, bring it on. Up next is an interesting one, more gameplay from Days Gone. This was one of the only things I saw last year that tickled my fancy, so I'm glad we got to see more. A lot of people feel completely different though. From what I can tell, it seems to be a 50 split on this. A lot of people aren't interested in another zombie game. I can't blame them, it has certainly become oversaturated, but myself personally, I'm still searching for the zombie video game. I haven't quite kicked the bug yet. I've got my dumb multiplayer action, I've got my immersive stories, and even though I'm not the biggest fan, I've got lots of dead guys walking the streets. But I'm looking for a good all-rounder, so I am excited to try this out when it's released. Now from here, there was a lot of stuff that doesn't interest me whatsoever. Some remakes are interesting and a lot of games looked good. Call of Duty is Call of Duty as expected, but I can't put my finger on it. Something just didn't click with me for the majority of this show. There were also a lot of VR games I couldn't care less about, and Detroit Become Human looks like total shit, to the point where I muted the live stream and laughed throughout the entire thing. But the biggest shame, I felt the same way about Dad of War compared to last year. This game is not God of War. It's The Last of Us, which is not a bad thing, but the God of War I know is such a different experience than this is showcasing. Gone is the zoomed out, fast-paced, gory beat-em-up with massive QuickTime events, replaced with an over-the-shoulder camera, slower, heavier-looking combat, and a bigger cinematic emphasis. Why? To be clear, I am so glad this franchise is evolving over time and not just repeating the same thing we've seen before. But when everyone else is copying this style, God of War would stand out in its original form much better instead of blending into the crowd and feeling like just another third-person cinematic adventure. I'm sure it'll be great, I have no doubts about that, but as I've moaned about before, it all just blends in together at this point. The final thing we actually got I was interested in is Spider-Man. While not a big fan of heroes or the modern Marvel personality, I like Spider-Man and the character has had some whopper efforts in the game department before. Watching this gameplay, it looked good, don't get me wrong, but it looked like Watch Dogs to me. All the icons on screen showing you what you can do, where you can web to and what environmental attacks were available, all really awesome. I felt pretty average about this overall though, to be honest. There were a lot of QuickTime events. Not just here, but in this entire presentation, which is odd. But here in Spider-Man, I feel like they're not the best. In between showing us Spidey freely running up a wall and then along a wall later on, in the middle we have a QuickTime event where he runs up the side of a falling crane. Of course the thing is rotating, but was it too much to ask for letting the player control Spidey running up, then press the button to swing around? Now the player has to quickly initiate a wall run move, press the button again, that kind of thing. If you can implement the QuickTime events into normal gameplay, it'd be a lot better in my opinion. I'll admit though, certainly a minor grievance, the game looks great, but ending the show there, it dawned on me. This was nothing more than an after show of last year's PlayStation presentation. And that's a shame. I really wish we could have seen more. I was of the opinion that a Spyro the Dragon trilogy remake was certain, as all of the evidence was pointing towards it. I'm sure we'll get there next year though, following trend with Crash. But to sum up, while I think Sony showcased more interesting games this year, I feel like Xbox had the better presentation, as it was more impactful on the entire industry. New, powerful hardware and backwards compatibility is a strong showing, but my biggest disappointment, most of everything is coming out next year. So, it'll all be forgotten about for the most part, until it's about time to do this all again. We'll finally get the games, and then they'll be forgotten about even more because of all the newer stuff. It's a never-ending, malicious cycle that is exciting, but far from healthy for the industry, because the shelf life for these games is getting shorter and shorter each year. But tell me, what were your favourite and least favourite parts about the entire show? Let me know with a comment down below, followed with liking, subscribing and sharing the video. I'm Square Eye Jack and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.